power dial that combines fuel, choke, and ignition into one knob is exactly the kind of small usability thing that matters in the dark or during an outage. Key features that stood out to me are the 33.0 starting watts and 25.0 running watts, the quiet inverter design with stable power for electronics, and the L5-30 twist-lock outlet paired with standard household outlets and 2 USB ports. The unit is parallel ready if you want to pair it later, and it has COsense, which is a carbon monoxide sensor that will shut it down if levels are unsafe. It weighs about 59.5 pounds, which is manageable for a short carry, but there are no wheels, so plan around that. From my experience, setup is straightforward. It came with the oil, a funnel, and a basic toolkit, so I didn't have to hunt for anything to get going. Filling oil through the recess port took a steady hand and a bit of tilting to see the level. Once fueled with fresh 87 octane, the engine fired on the second pull. On colder mornings, it takes a couple extra pulls and a longer warm-up on choke, but nothing unreasonable. Switching the power dial from choke to run is intuitive, and the economy mode button is easy to find by feel. Noise is the big reason I prefer inverter generators, and this one does the job. At light loads in economy mode, it fades into the background as a soft hum. When the load spikes, you hear it ramp up, and at full tilt, the pitch gets higher and more noticeable, but it's still far more polite than an open-frame model. I can have a conversation nearby without shouting when it's cruising at partial load. At full output for longer stretches, neighbors will hear it, so I place it as far as practical on level ground and point the exhaust away. Power quality is what sold me. The TruePower inverter output is clean enough for laptops, TVs, routers, and camera gear. I charged phones off the built-in USB and ran a laptop while the fridge cycled without any flicker or weird behavior. That's the kind of stable sine wave you want when you're mixing appliances and electronics on the same generator. I put it to a tougher test with my RV. Because it uses an L5-30 twist lock for 30 amps, I used an L5-30P to TT30R dogbone to plug in the trailer. With economy mode off, the air conditioner's compressor hit, the engine dipped for a moment, and then the RPM shot right back. PowerRush really does help with that momentary surge. With the AC running, I had to be realistic about what else I turned on. A microwave at the same time would trip the overload, which is expected given the 25.0 watt running rating. It's perfect for a 13.5 thousand BTU AC plus lights, chargers, and maybe a small fan, but you still need to stagger high-draw appliances. For home backup, I used it to keep a refrigerator, a chest freezer, a modem/router, a couple of LED lamps, and to top off device batteries. No drama there. It's not for big resistance loads like an electric water heater or central HVAC, but that's not what a compact inverter like this is made for. The twist-lock outlet gives you a solid connection to an inlet box if you go that route with the proper interlock or transfer switch. If you're not using a transfer switch, stick to extension cords rated for the load. Runtime matches the size of the tank. With 1.06 gallons, light usage stretches pretty far in economy mode. At around half load, I got roughly 4.5 hours before refueling. Plan for that if you want overnight operation with heavier loads. There's no fuel gauge, so I pop the cap and check visually. It's an old school move and a bit inconvenient, but that's the trade-off on a small, enclosed unit. Maintenance is where my biggest gripe sits. The oil drain location isn't friendly. When I did the break-in oil change at around 20 hours, oil wanted to creep over the ledge and into the bottom pan. A flexible funnel, cut-up plastic bottle, or form-a-funnel becomes your best friend to guide the oil into a container without a mess. It's not a deal breaker, just something you'll want to prep for. I also swapped to full synthetic 5W-30 after break-in, which helped with cold starts. I run fuel with stabilizer or ethanol-free when I can, and I drain the carburetor bowl before long storage to avoid a gummy pilot jet. That habit saves headaches. On the build side, the plastic panels feel solid, but I treat the tabs gently, especially when it's cold. The rubber feet isolate vibration well on a deck or driveway. I do wish it had wheels. Carrying 60 pounds for 50 yards is doable, but the hard plastic handle can dig into your hand if you have small fingers or gloves. It balances nicely, though, so loading it into a trunk or truck bed is easy. I like the simple LED status lights for ready, low oil, and overload, but I'd love an hour meter built in. The USB ports are handy for phones and headlamps, and the dust covers over the outlets keep grit out. The parallel ports are there if you want to grow your setup later. I didn't try to trigger COsense on purpose because that's not safe, but having a co-sensor that can shut the unit down is a real plus for campsite and backyard use. Just to be clear for anyone new to generators, you still must run it outside, at least 20 feet from doors and windows, never in a garage, and with the exhaust pointed away from where people are. In my opinion, the GP3300i hits a sweet spot for folks who don't want a heavy, wheeled generator, but need more muscle than a tiny 2,000 watt unit. It's quiet, sips fuel when the load is light, and puts out clean power that won't bother sensitive electronics. Starting is reliable, the power dial is easy, and PowerRush helps with motor start surges. The trade-offs are the small tank, no fuel gauge, a slightly awkward oil change, and the fact that you'll need an adapter for RV use because of the L5-30 outlet. It's perfect for RV camping with a 13.5 thousand BTU AC, tailgates where you want to power a TV, speakers, and a pellet grill, and emergency backup for a fridge, freezer, Wi-Fi, lights, and device charging. From my experience, early oil changes during break-in improve long-term behavior, a flexible funnel saves cleanup time, and a good L5-30 to TT-30 adapter is essential if you own a trailer. If you live in colder climates, synthetic oil and keeping fresh fuel on hand make life easier. I'd recommend this for anyone who values portability and clean power and can live with a short list of quirks. If you need electric start, integrated wheels, or an onboard fuel gauge, you'll be looking higher up the range or at a different model. If you're after a compact, quiet, trustworthy inverter that can handle real-life loads without beating up your back, this is a solid choice. In conclusion, the Generac 3300W gas-powered portable inverter generator delivers on the promise of portable, stable power with user-friendly controls and meaningful safety features. It doesn't pretend to be whole home backup, and that honesty is part of why I like it. Keep your expectations in line with the wattage, add a couple of inexpensive accessories, and it becomes a very capable part of your readiness kit, your camping setup, or your weekend projects. I will update specific information about the Generac 3300W gas-powered portable inverter generator in the comments. Don't forget to catch my next video.